Again, in our web links section, we have a link to the online databases for Eastfield College and actually for the whole Dallas County Community College District. If you click on that link, you should be taken to a page that looks very much like this. And you'll notice that there are several databases that are available to students. I'm going to demonstrate by using one of those databases, but each one is a little bit different. Some of them are very, very broad in scope, and so they will access articles and materials that come from very mainstream and uh, typical publications like Time and Newsweek and New York uh, Post or something like that. Sorry, I blanked on that for a second. But you also have more specific databases, for example, that might have to do with very specific materials like applied science or some about particular types of literature and things like that. ERIC, for example, is specific for students who are in the field of education, helps students who are planning to be teachers. What I'm going to demonstrate for you, though, is Academic Search Complete. Databases work very similarly to to Google and other search engines, but and each database has a different interface, but they work fairly similarly. If you were to click on the link for Academic Search Complete, you would come to a page that looks a little bit like this. And what you would find is a place where you could enter anything that you were looking for your paper. So, for example, if you're writing a paper on the Maltese Falcon, it's very general. And we could just type that in and click search. We would find a number of different uh, articles and things that we could get to, but unfortunately, since we need a very specific focus in the paper, we may not. This may not be very helpful. Obviously, 1,000 or more results is a lot to have to go through to decide which ones are going to be useful to you in your paper. So I'm going to make a suggestion that you click on the advanced search function and that you look a little bit at what you can add to your search categories. Uh, Let me go over a couple of the items that are here, because by doing so you can narrow the focus and help yourself to find things that are useful to you, but also weed out a lot of things that you know you were not going to be useful to you. For example, you have different publication types. If, so, for example, you were only looking for a book or a report of some sort, that would be useful. If you were looking for a review of a book, you could select this option. Now, my students in this class will not use book reviews, although some may be useful. In another one of my classes, I do have my students use book reviews specifically on one of their assignments where they have to look just for book reviews. If you read in more than one language, you can choose the languages that you happen to speak and or read, and keep out those languages that you do not read. I'm going to suggest that you always use PDF full text, because that way you will be able to read an entire article on the screen. Now, for our purposes, just to get through this, we want articles. We don't necessarily need bibliographies. Instead of books, we're going to choose periodicals and newspapers. You'll notice you can also check scholarly and peer-reviewed journals. These are very focused publications that are on very, very specific topics like history or literature. You can also narrow down the time frame in which the articles have been published. So, for example, if you're professor says that you can't use any research that was published uh, after before 1963, you can narrow that down so that you only find articles that are published after that particular date. Okay, so we're going to type, we have the Maltese Falcon already up here, but let's say we need to add stereotypes. That's one of our possible topics, and we notice we have 45. Didn't need to search all of a sudden there. Uh, 45 results, but let's also look at women in literature. Let's see what happens there. Now we only have 31 results. Now, some of these certainly will not have to do with the Maltese Falcon, but it doesn't mean that we won't find some useful information. Okay? Let me show you a couple of things that you will see once you find and narrow down some of these search results. I've done by just selecting the fields, which pretty much does a keyword search, but you can change any of these to the author, title, subjects, things like this that will help change the way that your search is conducted. We have an option here. We have an article that says reading video games is authorless literature. Well, we already know from the title that's not going to be useful. Our second or third here link, it says John Huston and the Maltese Falcon. Well, the problem with that probably is that it focuses on the movie and not the novel. And in our case, we need to focus on the novel. Now, I don't know if this next item here is going to be useful, but we're going to click on it anyway just to see what happens. And if we do, we click on the link, it's going to open up for us a new page that gives us a number of different items, the most important of which, for our purposes right now, is this, and it's the abstract. An abstract is a summary of an article. It tells us the main ideas, tells us what the main points are that are addressed. If the article contains information about, say, a study, it might tell us what the results of that study were. It may tell us the basic thesis of the article so that we can get an idea. Now, the reason this is very important is that it tells us, without us having to read the entire article, whether or not this might be useful to us. Okay? This is really important. Now, you will never quote an abstract in your paper, but we could, for example, read this short paragraph and decide that this could go on our maybe list or our yes list in terms of our research. And I'm not going to go through it in great detail. It probably doesn't have anything to do with our topic, but because we're looking at it now, I'm going to assume that, let's presume this is going to go on our maybe list. We don't know for sure. We can open the article itself by clicking PDF full text, and that will pull it up for us to read right here on the screen. And you can do that, read through it, decide whether or not you think it's useful, that sort of thing. If you like the article, or you think that it may be useful, remember, we're constructing a bibliography at the same time. We can do a number of things. We can print the article by clicking the icon over here. We can save the article, export it, save it in some way. Those are two things that lots of people like to do. They can save the file on their flash drive, for example, and then they can pull it up on their computers at home. My favorite option, however, is to email. And I'm going to tell you why this is very useful to us. If I click the email function, I'm going to send this to myself. What this will do, okay, and I'm just going to give it a generic subject. Over here, it says it will save this as a PDF separate attachment. That means that the PDF will be sent in my email. I can also change the citation format. We use Modern Language Association in English, but if you were writing a paper for another class, you could change it to whichever form your course used. I'm going to leave it at MLA. What this is going to do here, I'll click Send. It gives me an email confirmation. Then I can go and open my email. Who knows what's in there now? I see this article's already been sent to me, and it gives me a lot of information. One of the things it sends me in the email is what it looks like in the Works Cited page. And I can copy that material just like this and put it in my working bibliography. Now there are things I would have to fix on this when I construct this for a class, but this is pretty much what it would look like on a Works Cited page. So I've already got that source listed for myself. This helps me a great deal. I'll go back to my inbox, and if I wanted, I can open it up and read the article when I'm ready to do all the reading that I have. That way I can, when I'm done with this article here, I can go back to my list and I can look at other articles. Look at the, where did I go? There it is. Go back to my list, keep on doing this until I find other things that might be useful to me, and keep on adding to my to what I have. And by the way, I can say cite the source by clicking the cite button, scrolling down to the proper format, blocking it, copy, adding it here. Obviously it's not properly formatted, but then I can easily fix that. Let's see. Indent. Change the font. Change this because it shouldn't be all caps. This one should be double spaced. And there you go. And I just keep on saving it as I go along. Okay. Now there are many more things that you can do with this. There are many more ways in which you can find information, but I hope that this will at least get you started on your journey to finding research for your paper.